Hey guys, and welcome to another limited review video here on the Nitzahone Magic channel. I'm Nitzahone, and all week I've been bringing you guys videos, limited review videos for Shadows over Innistrad. I've done the other four colors, best commons and uncommons in those colors, and now we're finally at green. Even after I'm done with this limited review video, after I've covered all five colors, I will also have three more videos, one of which will be the top 10 bombs in the format. Another will be the top 10 cards I would never play in the format, and the other one will be an archetype overview that'll talk about all of the color pairs and how they will play in this format. But for now, we're on green. But before I get into the list, I wanted to remind you guys to enter my Shadows over Innistrad draft giveaway if you haven't yet. An annotation should be somewhere on your screen right now for you to click. And after you've done that, you can continue watching this video, and we'll go ahead and move on to the uncommons. This is the card that I think is the best uncommon in green in Shadows over Innistrad, and I don't think it's relatively close. In fact, I think this card is the best common in all of Shadows over Innistrad because it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know how this creature is not a rare. I have a feeling in design it was at some point, and they bumped it down for one reason or another. Maybe they thought green was too weak and limited. But this thing's crazy. He's a 2-mana 2/2. You know, green gets those all the time. That's nothing super special, but you probably play it anyway. But he also has the ability at any time, by the way. He doesn't say it's sorcery speed or something. That would make it a little less good. At any time, you can pay 3 and look at the top 3 cards of your library, and if there's a creature card among them, you can choose one of them and put it into your hand. So this guy immediately, like, you know, the turn after you play him, can start getting you value by giving you more creatures. Like if he replaces himself, you feel pretty good about what he's done. He is going to be a card, you know, the downside about him is his 2 toughness. He can die to a lot of removal in the format. But if they don't kill him and you play this guy on turn 2, I don't really see you losing the game. It's pretty hard to. He can transform, which can be a problem, of course. But even once he's transformed, you know, he gets 1 more power and he has the ability to make things cost 1 less to cast, which has synergy with untransforming him, because if your creature spells cost 1 less, you can cast them a lot easier. If he didn't transform, I have to say he would almost be better, because if you have 3 mana hanging around draw a card every turn, then you'd be all over that. But anyway, probably the best uncommon in the set, definitely the best green uncommon. But there's one other very good green uncommon I wanted to mention, and that is Pack Guardian, another wolf, although not a werewolf, a 4-mana 4/3 with flash. I would already play that in any format that's ever existed, really. But you also have the interesting ability of being able to discard a land when he enters the battlefield, and if you do, you get another wolf, a 2/2 wolf token. So another really good card, because here you're paying 4 for 6/5 worth of stats if you have a land in your hand. By the way, discarding a land isn't a huge downside, because A, you probably are only doing it if you have enough lands, and B, it's hardest probably to get a land in your graveyard for Delirium, and this helps make it happen. But even if you can't discard a land, flashing this in to block like a 2/3 or a 2/4 or anything like that feels pretty good, or even like a 6/4. Things like that are good to block when you're only paying 4 as well. So those are what I think are the 2 best green uncommons. I definitely think that the werewolf is like the best uncommon in general, but Pack Guardian is also a very, very strong uncommon. I do have to say, unfortunately, I don't think green made off nearly as well with commons. They're a little underwhelming. There are a lot, that sort of could have been honorable mentions and things like that. But none of them are that great, except for one, which I'll mention shortly. But the one that I think is the 3rd best, I guess, I don't feel real great about it, is Quilled Wolf. It's another bear, 2-mana 2/2, and it stays relevant in the late game because it can pump himself. It's sort of like Oran Reef Invoker, which we've had recently, who turns out is, filler, basically. And I think that's basically what Quilled Wolf is. I think green has a lot of filler in common and not a whole lot of cards that are like really good at common, but they did get 2 really good uncommons, so maybe it evens out. At number 2, I have Byway Courier. I like this card because it passes the vanilla test, but also because it replaces itself in a way. There's also a lot of clue synergies in green, especially in green-blue, and he helps with that. He also fits into a human deck nicely, so he's pretty nice, but again, probably only slightly more than filler. Not a whole lot more than that for this card. However, the number 1 green common is actually quite good and considerably more than filler, and it is Rabid Bite. Green has been getting removal spells finally in the last few years of Magic's limited history, thank God. And this is one of those. It is a sorcery, so it stands the risk of getting 2 for 1, but it's important to note it doesn't actually make your creature fight another creature. You can use Rabid Bite to just have your creature do damage equal to its power to another creature. So it's more like Tail Slash, which was one of the best red commons, one of the best commons in general in Dragons of Tarkir, I guess. It was in one of the Tarkir sets. I can't remember anymore. And Rabid Bite costs 1 less, and it's not an instant like Tail Slash, but it still costs 2 for a pretty powerful effect. Green always has some of the larger creatures, and you don't even need that large of a creature. I mean, your Byway Courier can kill a lot of things if you're going to use Rabid Bite. So I think that Rabid Bite is definitely the best green common, and it's pretty high quality, even perhaps first pickable at times. So that's good to keep in mind. I do have one honorable mention that I just wasn't sure how to evaluate, but I think is probably pretty good, and that is Vessel of Nascency. The other vessels are some of them are bad, some of them are sort of filler. This vessel strikes me as being pretty good. You can play it on turn 1, which usually in limited you don't have anything to do on turn 1. And later in the game, you can sacrifice it to get some pretty sweet card selection. You get an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. So you can't get instants or sorceries. So you definitely need a deck with a lot of permanents, basically, for this to be good. But it's still pretty good, and it also adds to Delirium by being an enchantment card in your graveyard, which isn't the easiest thing to make happen. Although all the other vessels and other colors also sacrifice themselves, I find this one to be one of the more attractive ones. Although I think the white one's pretty good too, but there are way more good commons in white than there are in green. So that concludes my color-by-color review of Shadows over Innistrad for Limited, but as I said, there's still 3 more videos to come, so keep your eyes open for those. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.